All right, so a quick video about the moon phases in the sky as they relate to your inner moon cycle. So whether you are in a female body or a male body, the moment you were born, there was a sun and there was a moon. And typically when we talk to each other, we say, "What's your sign?" We're talking about where was the sun in the sky when you were born. So if someone asks me that, I'm going to say the sun was in Pisces. And also, equally important, the moon was in Cancer. So the moon is a reflection of our inner reality. This is related to our dreams, has to do with intuition, the way that we receive intuition. Everybody has a slightly different variation of that. It has to do with our sensuality, sexuality, and as Stephen Forrest says, the moon is the sum total of our mood over a lifetime. So looking at I want to show this book. First of all, this is one of my favorite, and a lot of my teachers refer to this book as David Radar being the pioneer on the lunation cycle. And this book is really amazing. So if you're interested in learning more about the moon, definitely pick this up. He has in here 8 phases of the moon. And each phase, there's a certain vibe for that phase that we are collectively feeling. And then the phase that you were born in, it's like your personality type. You can, sum total that. The angle of the sun and moon is what creates the phase of the moon. So this personality type that we look at from the moon, it includes both the sun and the moon. The sun being what a lot of cultures would describe as a masculine force, and then the moon being a feminine force. The sun-moon angle is a reflection of both of those things. So in my current program called Temple of the Moon, we're going through every single day what phase of the moon is in. And this video is to kind of start to track the pattern of your inner moon cycle in relationship to the outer moon cycle. So I asked this question today. Have you tracked a pattern? Have you noticed a pattern? And so sometimes if you are still having a menstrual cycle or you are having a menstrual cycle at all, maybe you never were, you can notice a shift. So sometimes the moon and your ovulation date will be the same. So the basic framework for that, the new moon is the time of, it's a bleeding phase. And then there's a couple of steps in between, and then the full moon is an ovulation phase. Ovulation phase meaning that collectively this is where we are having our peak experience, and it has to do with a peaking of these 2 archetypes. So our upcoming full moon, which is a very powerful eclipse that we're having on January 10th, 2020. I think that's at 11:21 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, that this is going to be harmonizing and like it's a peak experience of these 2 archetypes, and how we are going to sort of bring our own unique form of harmony to these 2 things. And oftentimes on a full moon, it's challenging, and that's, you'll see that through research, the ER visits are higher. There's more police and emergency teams being called on the full moon days, and there's just an increase of energy. So you might be in your ovulation phase at the same time that the moon is in our collective ovulation phase. So sometimes you might be in your ovulation phase, your own personal ovulation phase, and the collective cycle is in a new moon phase. So by tracking this, I have a couple of different ways that I do it. One, I only use a moon calendar for the last 5 years, only using a moon calendar, because what happens is if you're using the regular calendar that starts all the time on a number 1 and ends on a 30 or a 31, your mind becomes very oriented toward this weird thing that it's tracking our man-made time, and nothing wrong with man-made time. I have a really good article link I'll attach here just to get more education, information on how that calendar came about for us. But using a moon, I'm looking here because I have a moon calendar on the wall there. Using a moon calendar switches the mind over to when is the new moon. So you flip the calendar page on the new moon, and it's sometimes it's 4, 5, sometimes it's 10. When you start the new cycle, it's about the moon having its first day of its next phase. So currently we're in the 13th, this is the 13th cycle of the moon, and this will be the last one. And we'll start our first moon cycle of 2020. I think that's on the 22nd or the 24th of January. I don't have my notes here. I think it's the 22nd or the 24th. But, you know, just getting used to following that. So what I do is with the moon phase, that's the calendar, and I keep track of what phase that I'm in. And when I am in a relationship that involves me possibly getting pregnant, I also check my temperature, and I track more of my fertility signs in that moon calendar. So I always know what phase the moon is in and what phase my inner moon cycle is in. So it's good to know, because sometimes there's nothing going on, everything is totally fine, and I feel completely grumpy and angry and like there's no reason for it, but I feel that inside and I'm very aggressive. And then I know, like, okay, well, this is the last quarter of my cycle, which is the luteal phase, which is where I've already ovulated and it's like preparing to release and start over again. And so I know that my mood is totally fine. It's totally respective to what's happening in my inner moon cycle, regardless of what phase the moon is in. Although being in my cycle within the bigger cycle helps me to have more self-awareness of myself and in all of my relationships that I have with different people and different places and plants and all the things I'm in relationship with. So when I'm doing these moon readings, the things that I call it the moon story. If you're going to have a moon reading that's just specific to your moon, I call it moon story. We look at the house position the moon was in when you were born. We look at what planets were conjunct or right next to the moon, and then all the relationships. So you can see this chart here has a trine aspect to all these things over here in Pisces, excuse me. And then the moon has another trine aspect perfectly with Uranus over here in Scorpio. And also the moon is square to Pluto. So in this person's moon story, there's a lot of information around the moon and the way that this person relates their inner emotional realms to all these other aspects of life. So with that, this outer ring is for the eclipse that's happening on the next full moon on the 10th. And at the time of the eclipse, the moon is going to be at 20 degrees Cancer, which is going to be exact on this person's moon. So anytime there is, especially when it's an eclipse, but anytime there's any planets that would be transiting, so this is called a complex. And anytime there's a planet transiting, it would activate the whole entire complex. So understanding what your moon story is very, very helpful in understanding your moods and your emotions, your cravings for food, cravings for touch, for healing, for relationships and sexuality and everything that's your inner stuff. Your dreams, that's something that I've been really, really focusing on, is that relationship, or more that reality that is a dream reality, and how that the dream, even in the daytime, like daydreams, sleeping dreams, how all of that information is equally, if not more important than the daytime. the daytime reality of waking life. So there you go. I have a lot of information. If you want to know what moon phase you were born in, I have a video about that, so you can calculate your own sun moon angle. And I recently wrote an article talking about the different moon phases as they relate to the moon. The next thing I'm going to work on is the personality type. So you can read this, but the way that I'm working with the moon is also including Tantra yoga and the breath practices that go with the phases of the moon and the seasons. And I would like to write my own personality types based off of the work of Dane Ridjar in the lunation cycle, and also with Stephen Forrest. Stephen Forrest has a lot of really great, just overall great. I think his school is, I can't remember the name of it. I'll attach a link to that too. Very, very amazing stuff, because he's including, I was studying with the Shamanic Astrology Mystery School for about 5 years, and I love them too, and I really like being able to be more inclusive rather than just be, stuck on what symbols mean. I feel like with Stephen Forrest, there is more of an expansive curiosity about a lot of the archetypes, giving more space and room to investigate what they mean today. Not so much, yes, including the past archetypes, but also bringing more curiosity in what these archetypes are being reborn as all the time, and the way that we are reestablishing our own sense of self within the collective consciousness of what our mythology has originated from and keeps on evolving into. So thank you so much for watching the video, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.